Hello! Happy Constitution Day! Oh, you didn't know that it was Constitution Day? You must be a terrible citizen. No, just kidding. It kind of sounds like just another day that was made up to celebrate another whatever interest group happens to want at that moment, right? Well, yes and no. Sure, there were various interest groups in getting the day established, but what it commemorates is certainly worthwhile. This day commemorates our Constitution and those who are citizens under it and have become such through naturalization and through birth. On this day in 1787, delegates to the Constitutional Convention signed the Constitution, and we, as a people, were reborn as the United States rather than a confederated set of states under the Articles of Confederation. America had several births and rebirths. Some were in fire and blood, as in our Revolution or our Civil War, and some were in a more measured consideration and debate through words, through writing, as in the signing of our Constitution and then our Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which followed on very soon after, thanks to some of the advocates involved in the Constitutional Convention. When I was an active duty Marine, I carried a pocket Constitution with me in my left breast pocket over my heart whenever I was in camis and not wearing a flak, almost like some people would carry a Bible or a New Testament. I was notorious for challenging and quizzing my Marines or other Marines of any type, asking what they had sworn to support and defend and when they had last read it. Uh, I was a huge devotee of it. I took my oath as sacred, and I expected my peers, my juniors, and my seniors to do the same. For those who do not know, officers swear to support and defend the Constitution for the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, to take that obligation willingly and without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that they will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which they're about to enter, so help them God. Um, for enlisted Marines, there's an additional caveat that agrees to obey the orders of the president and officers appointed over them, and it's the same in other armed services. Now, officers don't swear to obey anybody. They only swear to support and defend the Constitution. And so while I believe it is incumbent upon any veteran and on any military member to know the Constitution, I think it is particularly crucial for any officer, um, since it is by implication imposed upon them to judge the value and the constitutionality of all orders with which they are delivered against the Constitution. And here's the real rub. We, as citizens now, as stakeholders within our ownership of our democracy, of our republic, we must be charged to support and defend our Constitution, all of us, and to understand it. Because if we don't understand it, if we haven't read it, how can we expect ourselves to make intelligent and informed decisions about it? So I'd like to invite you now as a friend, as a peer, as a fellow citizen, to consider rereading the Constitution. I'll be a little bit less aggressive and abrasive from how I was as an active duty Marine in my invitation to you, and just say, I invite you to do that. I think that you may find it beneficial. You may find it interesting. You might find it empowering. You are a citizen in the wealthiest, most powerful, most capable nation on earth in history. And you get to read the rule book and you get to influence the rule book and how we will collectively make decisions. So I want to read with you two important excerpts real quick from the Federalist Papers copy that I have, which includes a copy of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And those are actually the documents that I want to read because in the time that I've spent volunteering with the Yang campaign strictly as a volunteer and talking with my fellow citizens for it, there's often a debate about what the purpose of government is. So I think it's instructive to look at what our founders believed to be the purpose of government. So I'm going to do the Declaration a little bit, and then I'm going to do a little bit from the Constitution about what's most important. From the Declaration, what I want you to think about is why did we take violent action and have a revolution? Why do we as a people believe governments exist in the first place? So to that end, quote, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We're saying, hey, We are breaking the bonds between us and Britain. We should tell you why. And these are the ones, this is the crucial passage. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And then there's much more, of course, but that's the crucial passage that I always like to fall back on when people are arguing against government and saying we shouldn't have a government or we need the smallest government possible. Well, I think it's very useful to go back and look at why our founders thought we needed a government: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, so after we had that Declaration of Independence and we had the Revolution, we had an Articles of Confederation for a period of time, but then we decided that wasn't enough and we needed a constitution. We needed a more powerful and robust framework to unite us. And then we did it again. Our framers that signed on this date in 1787, the Constitution told us why they wrote this. It's in the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. What I think is so interesting there is that they have told us they're trying to come together more because before they felt like they weren't together enough under the Articles of Confederation, that they are trying to establish justice after Union, making sure that everybody is treated fairly under the law, that they are looking to have domestic tranquility to avoid future rebellions and revolts, and with one notable exception being the Civil War, it was largely successful, that they are providing for the common defense, working collectively together to solve a collective action problem, which is how do we make sure that against France and Spain and Britain and the native people, the Indians at the time, how do we make sure that we can work together in common to defend ourselves from violence of others that might want to deprive us of these things? And to promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty, to generally make things better for ourselves and our posterity, people who come after us. That's why we're getting together and doing all these things. So I'd like to ask you to reflect on purpose. Why do we have a nation? Why have we agreed to arrange it in this way as a republic of states, of a federalist system? Why have we chosen to write down the rules in a constitution that's so hard to change and to have laws that will allow us to change that, to have our elections for an executive that resides in one president, that we have a Congress that consists of both a House of Representatives and a Senate and a Supreme Court that will rule on those laws? Why have we constructed things in this way? And what do we ask of our leaders in the future? I was talking with a fellow vet about what's most important to us in a presidential candidate, and I realized to me it's no longer merely someone who understands what's in that book right now, what's in the Constitution, the way that it was before. I had this deep and abiding respect that bordered on a religious zeal for the Constitution. And it's not that that has gone, it's that I'm more interested in the purpose behind it than I used to be when I was always voting Libertarian and sometimes Republican. I want someone who understands that preamble, that purpose of what we are trying to do, and recognizes that things are going to be changing even faster than we have before. And we need to keep meeting the challenges of the future with a firm awareness of what has gotten us to here and what has existed before, but also unique and innovative ideas and understanding of how to apply those concepts and those purposes and the why behind that to what we face in the future. The biggest threat to our nation isn't some foreign power. It hasn't been for approximately since the age of steam and the machine gun. Since those times, it was no longer plausible for a foreign power to actually threaten our sovereignty and our safety as a nation. It's also not a civil war anymore, and anyone who entertains that as a fantasy or a fear of some sort of massive social upheaval that results in a war probably hasn't tasted enough of war to know just how low it should fall in your preferences for how to solve your problems. War is a terrible outcome that none of us should want. We should be looking for every possible opportunity to secure for ourselves and our posterity the blessings of liberty and domestic tranquility, and providing for our common defense rather than looking at ways to be divided. So, because we have this fantastic strength and technological prowess that we have built up, the biggest threat is that changes we have wrought to our way of life and our pursuit of happiness through our economy will begin to impinge on ours and our posterity's rights to life and liberty and to the pursuit of happiness. With automation making 1 in 3 jobs obsolete by 2030, with climate change proceeding at a more rapid rate than even many pessimistic projections thought plausible, and with division among our people being accelerated and weaponized by partisans on both sides, it's time we have a leader with a great combined understanding of both the past and the present and the future, who can bring us together, not left, not right, but forward. And of course, it's on the back of my Veterans for Yang t-shirt. And those of you who pay attention to this channel know that I think that that man is Andrew Yang in 2020 as someone who has both the deep understanding of what has gotten us to here and what we need to hold on to and where we need to adapt and innovate and bring new solutions to these modern, rapidly changing problems that are only going to accelerate. Thank you for your time and attention. Please take the time to reflect on the Constitution and what it means to you as a citizen and as an owner of our nation. And please take the time to consider whether Andrew Yang is the right candidate that you should support. And if he is, how can you help make that happen? Please feel free to get in touch and to give me any feedback on this. Thank you.